This guy is as entertaining as anyone there is in the game to watch, and I just enjoy watching. And we all sat pre-game and spoke about Wanganeen Miller versus Daicos, and to a person we all said, well, this guy does it. He's been doing it for years, and he does it every single week, and he just continues to do it. And he showed us again tonight, so I don't know why we bother comparing with anyone. He's nearly incomparable.
Running capacity.
He does.
I mean, his ball skills and his decision-making is great, but the amount of ground that he covers at high speed, I'd love to see his GPS numbers compared to other players. Because, geez, they must be massive, that high-speed running.
But at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Scott Pendlebury, who is an absolute star of the competition, but 55% game time in the end. 5 goal assists, and he came in that last 15 minutes, or 20 minutes nearly, and started controlling I suppose the Pies ball movement, but also what they needed to do at key times in the contest to be able to get the job done.
And we can say that Scotty Pendlebury doesn't have a lot of high-end speed like Nick Daicos. No. But he doesn't need it because he reads the play so well. He buys time when he does get the footy, and he just makes great decisions. And I love the way in that last quarter, Bucks, you don't have to wait for the last 5 minutes. If the opposition allows you to possess the ball and chip it around, why not take those options when you're in front and just slow the game down and take time off the clock?
The Pies have been doing this for quite a while. It's not a new part of their system, and we've seen them in last quarters early in Craig McRae's coaching tenure when they were coming back from behind and their last quarter surges. It was based on owning field position, owning possession, and forcing the opposition back six in a defensive structure into positions that they couldn't defend. I mean, the number of times they went long into the pocket in front of the MCC and just locked the ball in there, and it made it almost impossible for St Kilda to get it out. They just grind away.
Did you think St Kilda actually protected their back 50 too much in that last 5 minutes? They seem to be really getting back into their back 50, which means they couldn't turn the ball over upfield.
This is the Sunday Ticket on Fox as Collingwood debrief following their first up win. Opening round has been a huge success and wonderful football played across the weekend. Plenty of news as always. John Ralph from the Midweek Tackle is here to bring it all. Ralphie, what are the headlines this week?
Well, Scott Pendlebury is now officially a part-time footballer. What a beautiful thing that is, and one of the best part-time footballers we've ever seen. 65 minutes. So what happens now? How do they balance the fact that they need to get him through the season? Of course, he pinged a calf in the preliminary final only moments in, with breaking the record. He needs 6 games to level Brent Harvey, 7 games to get past him. So round 8 is when he would ideally do it. But Collingwood has a 6-day break and then a bye and then another 6-day break and then a 5-day leading from Anzac Day into that clash. So I've spoken to Charlie Gardner. He said, we haven't got a specific plan, but the red flags are the 5-day breaks. I think it's great that it's so early in the season. You don't have to rush towards it. If it is that they give him a couple of more weeks off. Last year, they used him as a sub 3 times. They rested him a couple of times. They had a couple of byes and he still got injured. They'll find a way. I don't think he cares whether he breaks it round 8, 9 or 10, does he? Do the right thing to get him fit for finals.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, it's what's best for him to be able to manage the whole year, really. And it was really interesting. I mean, when the 23rd, with the sub going to the 23rd man interchange, I still can't work out what's good about that. In other words, if you've got an injury, you put the sub on, now we've still got equal numbers. But anyway, that aside, the coaches didn't like it. You know why? Because they didn't like the play you're the sub today. Seriously, that's why the coach... Anyway.
Had to talk about it for 25 minutes in match committee.
But they've gone to the 23rd interchange, right? So therefore, what do you do with that 5th person? You just have him a part of the floating 23, doing 18. Or, as Collingwood did tonight, with various players.
So work with Tom Papley, work with
certain
Pendles.
game time. That seems to be the way. I suspect it'll happen more often, that kind of thing.
So basically a sub, but without it being called a sub, Ralphie.
A sub on and off.
Yes, exactly.
Still get full match fees. So,
of course,
what about Nick Daicos? They've changed the Copeland Trophy in his name. It's the Daicos rule. And now they've got a bit of a weird conundrum. So Barry Karp, the club's new president, says it would be unfathomable to consider him in any other jumper rather than the Collingwood jumper. Why does this matter? Because Tasmania's come in. They're trying to poach the best player, as, of course, Gold Coast did with Gary Ablett Jr. It seems there's a bit of smoke there. So the issue is he's contracted to 2029. It's on great money, really good money, but it's not NAS money, $2 million a year. What do you think philosophically here? Do you just say, OK, we'll contract you through to 2034, it's $2 million a year, you're the best player in the comp, or you sign the deal and maybe in a year and a half we'll think about it? Is it all distracting?
He's got another 4 years to run on his contract. Why would you do any recontracting? If we start jumping at shadows. Oh, he's getting such and such. But you've signed a contract in good faith. You make these decisions, and if you're worried about the money going up and you're not getting, sign a 1 or 2 year deal every couple of years. If you back yourself in, and then just keep going again. But if you take the longer term security, we can't, jump just because someone else is getting a bit more. Now, maybe he's the best player in the game. Probably is. You don't always get paid as the best player in the game. We know circumstances change, particularly clubs, players moving from one club to another. But I'd be staggered if they recontract or change the contract. No need to.
Give us the hypothetical. How much will be on the table for a player, 1 or 2 players, like Nick Daicos, an example, from Tassie?
I think 10 years, $25 million.
I thought they're talking even 3 or 4 million.
Well, potentially. They've got a $5 million signing bonus, and so that's great, but that's got to go between a couple of years and a couple of players. So, I think Zach Butters will get, 8 years, $16 million. I think if Tasmania offers $30 million a year, $30 million for 10 years...
$30 million a year.
$30 million a year.
Say $3 million a year for
$3 million a year.
Yeah.
You can't win a flag doing that.
You meant from a Tasmanian point of view, there's just too much in one player.
Yeah.
But that might, if they want to get a Nick Daicos, that's the kind of money you're going to be thinking, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, so Gary Ablett Jr. went to the Gold Coast, and it didn't really help them. He was he was the best player in the comp. He could have won multiple Brownlows there, but it didn't help them win a flag. And Jetterberries had a different model. They got players with amazing culture. They spread that load. That's a decision for the Tassie.
A lot of these things depend on where Collingwood are on the ladder.
Yep.
Because players, the salary cap doesn't work to the way it's designed because players want to go to certain clubs, particularly clubs that might be in premiership contention. The idea of the salary cap is everyone gets paid exactly their value. Good clubs have got too many good players, they've got to go to the bottom clubs, to top up the bottom clubs. But it doesn't work that way. So for Nick Daicos, if Collingwood happened to drop to the bottom half of the ladder, that might be a slightly different situation than if they stay up in the top 3 or 4.
And that's why it's so important for Collingwood to start the season hot, because all of a sudden people like Nick Daicos can see the future ahead.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about the rejigged opening round. So the AFL, I feel, has just nailed it. I know that South Australia and WA would say we need a game in the opening round as well. They're going to have to just blow it up. So this is the biggest secured home and away crowd in history. It was Scotty Pendlebury's 41st biggest game. That's how many big games he's played in front of. But so unfortunately for football, not cricket, the 150th anniversary test is March 11 to 15 out here behind us next year. So this game would be March 8. It was a roaring success. It's balanced the opening round. Greg Swan has asked the MCC if it's possible to play an AFL game in the days leading into the test match. I think you know what the test match authorities in the MCC are going to say. So you could play at Marvel Stadium in front of 60,000. It's not the MCG. Potentially you might see the State of Origin lost to Perth, so it might be a game that you play there as well. I think, you've talked about it, but we do feel like a broader spread across Australia with big games starting off in the northern states is a better balanced fixture.
But it wouldn't just be opening round then, would it? I mean, those dates would encounter round 1. So what about the Richmond-Carlton traditional game here?
I think as we speak, I think that's not going to be a contest that we will see at the MCG.
How important is that one? Like, it seems like everything has to be based around Richmond-Carlton start round 1. I mean, is that important that it start in round 2?
It was when they were both good. But
now that they're not, why wouldn't you make a change?
Yeah,
why wouldn't you pick a better
let
game?
them play Thursday night in round 2. Why does it not have to be round 1?
Yeah.
They start with Richmond-Carlton.
And more to the point, it might be we don't get back onto the MCG till round 3 or 4.